brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because we think our name is classy, like the Crawleys, and should be repeated as often as possible. My name is Kylie, and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! Hope spring is near to blooming in your neck of the woods. Here in Michigan, it's certainly struggling. We also hope you have been following releases of brand new episodes throughout November through March of this year, and we have several more new episodes on the way. As always, though, because the panelists and I have to live lives behind the podcast, the episodes are being published once per week in mini-seasons, kind of like The Walking Dead. So subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes or Stitcher Radio to stay on top of brand new episodes. We have several episodes already published discussing Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Forever, Game of Thrones, Orange is the New Black, The Vampire Diaries, Gotham, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Once Upon a Time, Doctor Who, and Marvel's Daredevil. We've taken a look back at True Blood, Ally McBeal, Futurama, and The X-Files, and more episodes are in the works concerning the new X-Files miniseries, a revisit for Season 2 of How to Get Away with Murder, a reminisce about Desperate Housewives, and brand new discussion panels for British mystery series Broadchurch, Netflix's Marvel's Jessica Jones, a brand new CPU series covering the Arrowverse/DC television universe, such as Arrow and The Flash, and hopefully many, many more. If you don't hear your show in this podcast format, though, check out the blog. Fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we're always seeking new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello. We have a Facebook page, a Twitter, follow us at CPU Podcast, and an email address at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com. We also have Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite and Pinterest at CPU Podcast. Of course, you can always subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, or our Stitcher Radio channel, and leave comments and reviews. Feedback is an especially helpful thing to us because CPU happily keeps growing, and we are, after all, a podcast by the people, for the people. Today, we're around the water cooler, or perhaps more appropriately, around the tea table, and discussing Series 6, i.e. the final season, of Downton Abbey, which aired in the United States on PBS or public broadcasting from January 3rd, 2016 until March 6, 2016, when the last Christmas special and series finale was broadcast here in the States. If you're unfamiliar with Downton Abbey, this period drama followed a fictional family, the Crawleys, members of the traditional British aristocracy, beginning near the dawn of the 20th century. The Earl of Grantham, Robert, played by Hugh Bonneville, is forced to contend with the changing face of British government and society during tumultuous times fraught with world wars, movements for rights of women in the lower classes, and a revolving occupant on the British throne, while wrangling his gentle but headstrong wife Cora, played by Elizabeth McGovern, his 3 daughters of wide-ranging personalities, his staff who maintains his home, from which the series got its name, and his waspish mother, played by the inimitable Dame Maggie Smith. For a more detailed plot summary, listen to CPU's prior podcast episode about Downton Abbey, or check out our other Downton entries on the blog. If you didn't already know, you can click the floating box at the top right of the header, the picture with the TV watcher, and search for any blog entry or prior podcast episode, which I believe is a pretty handy thing. Today, our timeless panel of Downton aficionados has returned, namely Kristen, Krista, and Stacey, in addition to 2 brand new panelists, including one voice that may be familiar to listeners of CPU's growing array of podcasts about superhero shows, to the extent that either of these audiences cross over, as well as one brand new voice. They will be discussing and reflecting upon the final series of this enjoyable show, including the scandalous and not-so-scandalous goings-on of our beloved characters and whether they were given a fitting send-off when the show's final moments aired. It should be noted that all of the panelists have viewed the entire series to date and may discuss sensitive plot points. So, for those of you who haven't watched really any of Downton Abbey, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. Well, hello, panel. How are you?
Hi, Kylie.
Well, was very nice. Well, welcome back, and welcome to two of you. We're going to kind of get right back into it and remind the listeners of who's on the panel, and then we're going to introduce our two brand new panelists, so we're very excited to be taking part with this and talking about Downton Abbey Series 6. Let's talk about where we are. Let's take your temperature. As you know, the CPU standard question of the characters will be asked, and I'm going to find out where you are, because last time when we talked about Series 5, there were some different characters that were on the show that are not on the show anymore. Plus, our characters have changed in their, or how they acted in Series 6. So I want to take your temperature and find out where you are, and also remind the listener who was on the panel the last time, and then we'll introduce our two new panelists, okay? So if you recall from last time, when we talked about Series 5, Stacey was Isabel, and we'll explain what that means in a minute. Krista was Robert. Kristen was her famous combination of three characters, which were Lady Mary, Lady Edith, and Lady Rose, all the ladies. And I was Cora and Rose, and we'll explain what that means in a minute. But what I'd like to ask you is, where are you now? How was your interest in the show while you were watching Series 6? Some of these are changed, some of them are not. Okay. Did you care for each of the characters as you would your own children, like Cora, the Countess of Grantham? Did you dutifully watch it as any member of the aristocracy would be expected to do, though even you must concede that things change and come to an end, like Robert, Earl of Grantham? Did you watch it with the aloofness of an intelligent lady, appreciating its finer points and the enjoyment they bring you, such as the beautiful costumes and sets and cinematography, etc., yet are silently critical of its flaws and are worried, or maybe not so silently in this case, and are worried about how you might look for liking such a program, like Mary? Did you watch it because you were resolved to like it, no matter your station in life or what chance you might really have at a happy ending, like Edith? Did you watch it with stalwart passion and principles, unafraid of the reputation it might bring you, like Cousin Isabel Crawley? Did you watch it because it's like home to you, like Tom Branson? Did you watch it because that's what the lord or the lady of the house expects, and it brings you some happiness, even though you have your own home life to look after, like Carson or Mrs. Hughes / Carson or Mr. and Mrs. Bates? Did you watch it because you have no other choice or station in life, or so you think, like Mrs. Patmore, Molesley, or Baxter? Did you watch it because you have no other choice or station in life and you're looking for ways to cure your position and your boredom, for better, like Daisy, or worse, like Barrow? Or did you watch it, but you don't like it much, and you want to share your feelings with unparalleled one-line zingers, like the Dowager Countess Violet?
I am still Isabel.
All right.
I am still Isabel, but I think I found with this last one I'm also a bit of Tom.
Okay.
Because it felt like home. I was anxiously waiting for this, sad at the same time, but so excited to go, okay, I'm back at Downton. And right now, it doesn't feel like it's done, because we would normally be done now anyway. So I wonder, come January, or as we get closer to when it would have been out, will I start feeling a little more nostalgic and say, oh, I'm sad that this piece is here. And maybe at that point in time, I get a DVD and throw it in and start all over again.
All right.
And do it that way. But yes, I'm still Isabel, principled, loved it, what's right, but feeling like Tom, where it was going home.
Oh.
It was going home.
All right. Well, welcome back, Stacey.
Yay.
For fun, I'm also still Robert, but also a little Tom. So maybe that's just kind of the theme. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it also felt a little bit more like, I don't know, a hug. Like, just like, oh, I'm just going to watch this pretty thing for a while.
Okay. But you're still dutifully, because remember when you talked about being Robert the last time, you watched it dutifully because you didn't love it as much as when you first started it.
It still is, season 3 is still my favorite.
Okay. So it never recovered?
No, it did. Season 6 was substantially better than season 5.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed.
So, I mean, it's getting way better, but I think it peaked in the middle, personally. Because I loved Matthew, as we know. and then he died.
He died, but it's really just because the actor made a really terrible career choice.
He did.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
And really terrible since we don't see him anymore.
He is
That's
going to be
true.
in The Beauty and the
I
Beast.
did hear that.
Yeah.
He was the voice of the computer on the Tomorrow People, but that got canceled.
Just like the rest of his career.
Damn right.
Oh, karma.
At the same time, though, I wonder how much, I wonder how much they would have been able to take that storyline if he had stayed. Because where do you go with that?
It would have been a
being
drastically
married?
different show.
Yeah.
It would have been a
Yes.
drastically different
Yes.
show. For sure.
Although I think they just pulled Branson into the role that they would have had him playing.
That's
so.
what I was going to say. I
that
think
could
they
be.
gave Tom a road in and back.
But I like the fact that Tom had that road in and got to be accepted as he did.
Part of the family.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
And he realized it. And realized it was comfortable with it.
Which was so cute.
It was. We'll talk about that in a second. But welcome back, Krista. Thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah.
Dutifully.
Beautifully.
Kristen, hi.
Hi. So, not much has changed.
Well, Lady Rose is not on the show
Lady
anymore.
Rose is not on the show anymore.
So that has changed.
That has changed. Yeah, I'm still a Mary because I love the beautiful costumes and the sets. Like, for me, it's just like a feast for the eyes. It's so beautifully done. And I'm going to strike Edith and replace her with Tom. I'm going to follow the trend. I don't know. I refused to start watching this show until about a week before this podcast was recorded because I didn't want it to end, and so it kind of felt like a little bit of coming home. I don't want to leave quite yet.
I understand and commiserate. Well, welcome back, Kristen.
Thank you.
I'll wait to talk about myself because I'd like to introduce our two new panelists, one of whom, as I already indicated in the intro, has been on several of our other panels. So we'll start with him. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So what I'd like the two of you to do at this time is tell us what your first name is, how you came to watch Downton Abbey, what made you start, how'd you find out about it, what kept you watching, and then, pick one of these characters like you're supposed to do.
I'm Spencer.
Hi, Spencer.
I found out about Downton Abbey. My mom was actually recommending British TV shows. She said, if you can find Downton Abbey, you've got to watch it. And that was about halfway through season 1.
Okay.
And I was able to find it quite quickly and became addicted very quickly. I really did enjoy the show for everything it showed. The historical aspects were a big part of it, and the accuracies in which it was portrayed, where, when you see a scene, you're not seeing a TV antenna on top of a house, that kind of thing. So even recognizing some of the areas of the filming. As time's gone on, some of the things have changed. Some of the seasons were better than others. Some of the things were very telegraphed. Some of the writing was interesting.
Okay.
When it comes to what character am I, I'm a potpourri of all of them throughout because of taking the season as a whole. But on season 6, I would say I'm probably Tom with a touch of the Dowager.
Wow, twist.
Because I really wanted to see it, I really wanted to enjoy it, I really wanted to see it all wrapped up. But at the end of the day, the Dowager comes flying in because it's just so contrived and so, I'm going to wrap it all in a pretty bow and give you all what you want. And that's not how TV should be for me.
Okay.
So
Very interesting.
Weird, 'cause I
From the
actually-
Brit on the panel.
I really liked that part.
You liked that part.
Oh, I thought it was contrived and ridiculous, but aw.
yeah, that was the R factor. But
I agree.
There's
I
the
agree.
inner critic in me that's just screaming at the TV.
Oh, no,
that's like,
yeah.
oh, come on!
Everybody's happy? That's
Yeah,
not life.
no, the Abbey should have ended in ashes, and there should have been at least 3 deaths.
There's your superhero crossover.
At the same time, I'm with Kristen in not wanting it to end. I'm glad it got wrapped up and was the awe. Because
Yeah.
then I could feel okay letting it go.
Yeah.
There was some dead ends as well.
It wasn't a Soprano ending. I
No.
would not have wanted
That's
the
true. The
Soprano
Soprano ending would
ending.
be-
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll definitely get into some of these points in a second. I would like to introduce our brand new panelist. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm just great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Who are you?
I am Kristen as well, so I will be going by Kristin T in this podcast too.
And Kristen, what Kristen?
The original Kristen, I'll be going by Kristen L in
All
this
right.
podcast.
Very nice. So we have Kristen L and Kristin T. Kristin T, tell us about yourself.
Well, I started watching Downton Abbey after 3 seasons had been released. I was kind of a reluctant watcher at first. It was so big and so many people were talking about it, and that tends to drive me away from things like books and movies. I don't watch a lot of TV.
Okay.
So I was not really planning on watching it, but I had a spring break trip that was canceled at the last minute. And so suddenly I found myself with a lot of time and really crappy snowy weather.
Okay.
So I decided to go to the library and check out something to watch, and Downton Abbey is what I walked away with the first season on DVD. I thought, I'll give it a try. And so right off, I was immediately a Mary after the first episode. I was just struck by the beauty of the costumes, the set, the setting, the scenery. I was just, the production of it really drew me in. Mm-hmm. And so from that moment, I had to keep watching. I had some criticisms, especially at the beginning, but I don't know, it caught my interest. Probably I wouldn't have got season 2 and then therefore season 3, and probably by that point I was definitely in Isabel. I was like, I know I'm behind, but I'm enjoying this, I like it, and I don't care who knows about it.
All right.
So I enjoyed the rest of the seasons, getting to watch them, and by the end of the series, I would say I was definitely a Tom.
Okay.
And I had a big old silly grin on my face when he and Sybil showed up at the wedding, and it just felt comfortable.
It felt young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it felt like the place to be.
Aw. When I included that choice, which is a little bit of a tweak from the Tom we had on the list the last time, I didn't expect it to be so popular. But hooray! Well, welcome, Kristen. Thanks for joining our panel.
Thank you.
And just to refresh the listener, if you don't already know or haven't already been listening, my name is Kylie. And last time I was Cora and Rose. Rose was our She Loves Everything Beautiful About the Show option the last time. I kind of combined her with the Mary option this time, because Lily James went on to do movies, essentially. I would still be Cora, I would say. I care about each of the characters, and that's why I stuck through it till the end. I wanted to see what happened, especially Edith. I have a particular affinity for Edith. I sort of kind of relate to her, but I also think she's been such a sad sack for so long that I really wanted to see something happen for her. And I can't wait to talk about the fight she had with Mary, because that by far was my favorite moment of the season. But I would also probably say that it was a little like Tom too. It was just, I just enjoyed turning it on a Sunday night and watching Downton Abbey and getting that glimpse at England at that time and just everything about it. I loved the show. As Kristin T said, it was addicting when I first started watching it, and I've been addicted ever since. And I'm so addicted that this series, we're actually doing a 2-part episode. So this is the first part of our 2-part episode, where we're going to talk about the last season. And then in the second part of our 2-part episode, we're going to reflect back on the show as a whole and say one of those long, sappy, nostalgic goodbyes, because we love it so much, and it's so much like home. Doesn't that sound nice?
Absolutely.
All right.
We'll all be Toms.
We'll all be
Yeah,
Toms.
that one.
You'll have to turn off the Violet side, Spencer.
Oh.
But not now. You don't have to do it now.
All right, good.
Okay. So let's just get right into it. Let's talk about our final season of Downton Abbey. We've gotten some glimpses of how you felt, but let's go ahead and flesh those out a little bit. What did you think of season 6 overall, especially compared to the previous seasons?
I thought they did a very nice job closing it out.
I thought so too. They really wrapped everything up quite nicely.
But left some things open.
Yes,
Yeah.
There was
I liked
definitely some pieces open, especially with Tom. Mm-hmm. You know, there's some pieces that were
There's
open.
that editor lady.
I'm sorry?
There's the editor lady.
Yes. Yeah. With Tom, I mean, I guess I'm still curious to say, okay, is Mary and her new husband going to be able to keep Downton alive? What's going to happen with the car piece? You know, where Mrs. Patmore, Mr. Mason. You know, it's like, oh, Daisy and...
I wanted to see more of Bates and Anna in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like they ran out of ideas for them. Oh, they've been through so much, we'll just kind of let them be in the background. And,
Well, they had a baby.
yeah, but it was... Yeah.
And see, for me, I've never
about
really been
that.
fans of theirs, so I was glad they were in the back.
I really liked Bates in the earlier
Yes.
parts of
Yeah.
that. He just seemed like such a good man. I still don't know whether he killed his ex-wife or not. It got wrapped up as if he didn't, but still there's that nagging.
Yeah, the ending of that particular storyline was a little clunky.
And
I
then
thought.
she
It was.
commits suicide to spite
Yeah,
him.
that was
Yeah, I
kind
think
of
that
what
was-
they
she
alluded
did
to
too.
towards the end. But
Yeah.
it's still that little nagging thing in the back of your head that goes, that just seems like a really weird way to go.
I feel like I missed something with the ending and the wrapping up of their story. I feel like maybe I missed a little bit of information along there somewhere because I feel like there's giant holes.
Yeah,
in how
I
they
agree.
ended.
And I guess in the end, I didn't care so much. Not because I don't like the characters. I do. I enjoy Bates and I enjoy Anna. But I guess I was so tired of the are they criminals or are they not criminals that lasted for seasons. I think that was by far the most tedious of all of the storylines.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was
Agreed.
like, okay, at least it's done now. And
Yep.
we're moving on.
Moving on.
But it was the guy getting pushed into the traffic. That was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Oh, we'll just have somebody come forward and say they did it. Done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was very. He's run out of ideas on writing this storyline and just wants to get rid of it, and I didn't really like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Though, interestingly, they kept seeming to give us enough twists with Barrow.
Yeah.
You know, because Barrow's story,
Yeah.
for a while, you'd be like, okay, yeah, he's being mean to everybody, blah,
Yeah.
blah. He's trying to blackmail,
Give
blah,
him,
blah, blah.
give him more
And-
depth.
Yeah, and then they took him out of the story for a while, but then rewound him with Carson.
Yeah.
The Carson story. So I thought they did a nice job with
Yeah.
that piece.
That was actually my favourite part of
Yes.
season 6, his
Yeah.
redemption.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
all those moments with him and Master George.
Oh, yeah.
It was that
Oh
that
my
showed
gosh.
that showed his humanity,
That
and
he
I
was a
really
person.
liked that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did too.
But I liked the fact that he recognized his redemption.
Yes.
He needed to come back to it. It wasn't everyone just forgiving him.
Right.
And the fact that Baxter stuck with him that whole time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I liked her with that.
She was a nice addition to the
She
cast.
was.
She
Yeah,
was.
she was.
And yay to Mr. Mosley.
Yes,
Mr. Mosley!
Another sad sack.
That was a male Edith.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I was so happy for him. I
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Yeah, his was a nice wrap up too.
It was
You know,
perfect.
becoming the teacher and struggling with that respect for the students at the beginning, but then them going, wait, this is them waking up to the fact that he really was a good guy and a
Yeah.
good teacher, and it all worked.
It was perfect. I'm so glad he finally found his place.
Yeah.
It just seemed like he was still
After
searching
season
for it.
5 with the hair dye and the
Oh, yeah.
It was just so pathetic.
Uh-huh.
Just felt awful
Well,
for him.
and the whole thing about, I just feel like I've missed my chance or I've missed my calling. It's like, no, it's never too late, Mosley. Get
But
back
once
out there.
again, Baxter stuck by him
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You know, she really.
She was a
Yeah.
very good supporting character that
Yeah,
gave
for-
other characters
yeah.
development.
Yeah, she did.
Though the Dowager's maid.
Denker.
Denker.
Danka. Oh my gosh,
oh,
I was
can't
ready to
stand
jettison
her.
her this season.
I wanted it to get hit by the first, one of the first buses or something.
Yes.
But how funny was it? I'm glad you mentioned this because I can't wait to talk about this plot point. That Spratt,
Oh, God.
Violet's
Oh,
butler,
yes.
was
Yes.
a
Brilliant.
women's advice columnist
That
in
was
secret
so
for Edith's
brilliant.
magazine.
And the moment when Danka thought that, she could ruin everything, and he's like, oh, well, she hates being predictable.
Yes.
Violet,
Yes.
I'm like, yes, finally.
Yeah.
Sprat won.
I,
Kinda, yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Because she's still, the Dowager's still just basically keeping them both on tenterhooks the entire time.
Yeah,
It's-
exactly.
That was so much fun to watch.
yeah.
It's kind of an effective control technique, having them kind of go against each other.
Oh, true.
Keeps them both on their toes, that was for sure.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yes, yeah.
Danker's
But
despicable.
Edith, that was,
As well
yeah.
as Isabel's husband's
Oh,
daughter.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hated most of that whole side plot, except for when they got to tell her off at the end.
Yes,
Yes.
that was
And that was
wonderful
a
too.
moment of
Yeah.
happiness.
Yes. And I loved that the Dowager was there with her. And
Yes.
was the one who said, we're going to do this.
Wasn't that such a wonderful friendship?
Yes.
Between
It was.
Because even when they
Violet
were fighting
and
about the
Isabel.
hospital, like,
Yeah.
they...
They got along.
It's like,
On
on the side.
we disagree, but we're still friends.
Some of my favorite scenes were the ones with just Violet and Isabel.
Yeah.
Conversations.
They have such a good chemistry together.
Yes.
I've always enjoyed watching those two.
Absolutely.
Well, one of my favorite pieces, and I think it was in season 5 when she was being proposed to, and everyone thought the Dowager was jealous of her change in stature. And I think she said it to Mary that it isn't that, but
know, it's-
she's been a companion.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
I'm
it's
afraid of
losing her
losing
companion.
Yeah.
I don't lose my best friend who doesn't know I'm a friend.
Oh, she knows.
Yes.
I think it's pretty clear she knows.
I was just telling Kristen before this that my favorite... I loved how it ended because it ended with Isabel rolling her eyes at Violet. Mm-hmm. That was the last moment that we saw of people.
Although there was a big disjoint between the last true episode, the way that ended, and then until the Christmas episode, which obviously we saw it differently here, but imagining seeing it chronologically in England, there's a big gap between that last episode of the show until they wrapped everything up with the Christmas episode. Mm-hmm. If that had been the true ending, just seeing the kid dancing in the graveyard, I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah, I didn't understand why they were running around... Isn't it Matthew's grave?
Yeah, it was basically...
It was Sybil's grave.
Sibby and Matthew's graves are right there. It was a very strange way to finish the regular season.
It
I
was.
don't understand why that was billed as the finale when there was still the Christmas special.
Well, because in England, the season proper does not include the Christmas special.
Right.
Yeah.
The Christmas special is the Christmas special.
Right. Okay.
Just like with Doctor Who and some other ones, they stand on their own and they're an event. Because everybody's at home eating their Christmas pie and stuff like that. So
It was just a weird way to end the actual regular season. And then to have to use that Christmas special to completely wrap up the entire show, it felt a little strange. Some of the writing got a little clunky in season 6, really.
Certain ones.
Explain.
There were certain episodes. Yeah.
Explain what you mean.
Well, just some of the storylines seemed forgotten and thrown away. It's obvious in that final season he had a couple of focuses that he really wanted to get out there. Obviously, Barrow's redemption was probably the biggest of them. Mm-hmm. Which, when you look back with everything that Barrow went through and everything he did, you didn't really realise that the writer had such a great affinity towards him.
Right.
That he really cared about him. And so it was a beautiful story when you take it as a whole. Mm-hmm. But there were just things this last season that this is where the Violet thing comes out that made me angry at the writer rather than the show itself, because it was still beautiful. Like you said, it was a very warm and delightfully happy wrap-up. And maybe that's where I have the problem, because life isn't delightfully happy at the end. There's lots of different things. I suppose the Carson thing was the sadness in the last episode.
Yes.
Seeing Carson just suddenly
Age.
fall.
Yeah.
You know, he'd been that powerful rock throughout the entire thing, and then just seeing him, not be able to do anything. There were just clunkinesses along the way in the last season. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what it was, but there were, like I said, with Bates and Anna, that storyline just, it didn't peter out. It just kind of ground to a halt.
Yeah. Sudden stop.
And I felt like it didn't really, nothing really started to happen to anyone in any sort of real way until the last 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. So I just felt like, and then all of a sudden it's just all right, Mary's getting married, Edith's getting married, all right, everybody's back, we're good, we're happy.
Yeah,
Boom.
and that doesn't seem even realistic, especially when you think about the time. Courtships back then were long.
We're going to get married tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was Friday. They established that it was Friday, and Saturday. I'm like, that's tomorrow. You're not going to get married tomorrow. That's crazy.
But that's what's wonderful about the fantasy world of TV.
Yeah.
I know.
We're not supposed to look at what's behind the curtain.
I know, but I
True,
can't
but
help
in
it.
a show that's prided itself on being historically accurate, to
Yeah.
then kind of just slop it together at the end, and it felt rushed. The end of the season felt rushed. I think that's where I'm coming from.
That whole Mary storyline felt very rushed to me.
You did.
That was one thing I enjoyed season 6 a lot more than season 5. I think, Krista, you mentioned that before. Season 5 to me ended, and I felt like everything was just starting to peter out. I thought, this has nowhere to go. Even the final scene with Daisy and Mrs. Patmore at the beach and just talking about possibilities, I thought, where are you going to go from here?
Yeah.
And then I liked a lot of the things that did happen in season 6. I liked a lot of the developments, but when it came down to that storyline with Mary, it just seems so rushed.
Yeah.
Especially after we've seen her from series 1 go through all these relationships and these doubts and these growing as a person. I wanted more from her, I guess, or from at the end.
I definitely have to piggyback on Krista and Kristin T's point, because I don't think the Edith storyline was rushed at all. I think that
was perfect,
that was
actually
very well cast.
Other than Barrow, I think that Julian Fellows' other affinity was for Lady Edith, because she was probably one of the most popular characters when it came right down to it. She was sad and pathetic, but she was also nice and relatable. So I think a lot of people liked her. But the Mary storyline, for sure. I mean, she spent the first half of the season like, oh, he's a race car driver. I can't handle it. It's a dangerous sport. La, 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 la. And they literally spent half the season on just that conflict. And then all of a sudden, he was quitting, they were getting married, and she was pregnant. Bam, bam, bam. So
Like, what?
that was definitely rushed, in my opinion.
Well, an interesting thing about the Lady Edith piece and how he needed to wrap that up is in many of the, behind Downton scenes or talking with Downton, they spoke with him, and he said he was in a grocery store. And a woman kept following him around the grocery store, following him around and around. And finally, he stopped, and she came up to him, and she said, "Stop making Edith sad." So he knew that he had to somehow have Edith come out okay on this because people were so
They were rooting
drawn
for her.
to Edith and where she was going to go. And I absolutely adored Robert's reaction when he was like, realized she was going to have greater status as a marquise than all of them. And it was like, yes, Edith.
Yep, she finally gets her moment in the sun, and she gets to kind of rub it in Mary's face a little bit.
And then Mary's poisonous heart and tongue. I tell you, that part I could barely stand it.
Dreading
I'm
it.
like, oh god.
Yeah.
It's like we all knew it was coming.
Yep.
Tom looked like he was going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Made me hate her even more. I have never liked her in the show. And that did it for me
I
right there.
I liked
just-
Mary's good side when her good side would come out. It was so nice to see, but all the time it was just this bitchy Mary. That's all she was.
Toward Edith.
Edith.
Yeah,
She
the
was nicer
competition
to
with them was
others.
very unnatural.
It was
in that
very
regard.
unnatural.
But that was the shame. She would have put her life out there for Carson,
Yep.
and maybe even Tom at that point in time.
By the end, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
Edith, she never gave her a break. And it was
But
just
why?
like, wow,
It's- Didn't that start in the very first season with
It's day
what's
one.
his name?
Day
That
one.
died.
On the Titanic. Yeah, we talked about this in our last episode when we were talking about season 5 because it was the same question. Like, it's been 5 theoretical. Well, actually, there was a time jump in the middle, so it's been many more years than just 5 years.
Titanic sank in what, 1912?
Yes, and
Yeah.
they were finished.
1926 was new. It was turning 1926.
So 14 years, and she's still holding this poisonous sort of vengeful attitude toward Edith, which is why, I mean, yes, that was terrible, the sabotaging of Edith's marriage at first, and I did love the fact that she ended up being a higher rank than her own family in the end.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But at the same time, it motivated the fight, and that was my favorite moment of the entire season. And I loved it when Edith just flat out called her sister a bitch.
Totally stood up to her. I liked that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It was a long time coming, and it actually shows the progress that Edith has made over the course of all of the seasons, but this season too. And
I'm done being a punching bag.
And she's a powerful woman, if you really
She
think
is,
about it.
yeah.
She owns a flat in London, and she
has a
is
business.
the editor. She owns the magazine, and she has means.
and
has
she's
a
whatever
child.
the female equivalent is of a marquess.
And has the child from a married man. I mean, he was still married when she was pregnant with his child.
And then he just up and disappeared.
Well, he died.
No,
of course.
Yeah, he was trying to get a divorce.
Yeah. But same
They
way.
implied in some sort of Nazi uprising.
Yeah,
in
he died in
Germany.
the bar raids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And kudos to her, too, for going to Bertie's mother.
Yes.
Yeah. That was a very good scene.
Very much like how Rose in the season before came to her father-in-law's defense.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And so-
And smoothed that whole situation over.
Yep. And
Yeah.
Edith telling the truth to her future mother-in-law. I loved that. I was very pleased and proud
The
of her.
portrayal of women overall in this show has been very good.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
And Edith was a very good middle child.
She
Yeah.
Thinking of her as a middle
Yep.
child. Not having the control of the power of her older sister, not having the fiery rashness of her younger sister. She was always just kind of stuck
Yeah.
in the middle. And I feel like even the cinematography and the staging kind of showed that a lot too.
It did.
Anyone know how to say this word?
Marquez.
Is it just Marquez?
Marquez.
Even the female spelling?
Oh.
I thought it was
The
Marquez.
male is Marquis and the female
Female
is
is
Marquez.
Marquez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the extra ION confused me in the middle.
Oh, I must have missed something. Oh, Marchioness.
There you are.
So Marchioness is the female.
Okay. This is not something I knew prior to saying it. I mean, other than through my research, not know how to say the words.
But can we talk about really quick how gorgeous the costumes were in this season? And
They were fantastic.
Those wedding dresses, oh my goodness. The whole time I was just like, I want all of Mary's clothes.
Rose's
Yes.
wedding dress was probably the most spectacular
Yeah.
costume of the
Oh, my
entire show.
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, but this season's costumes were really fantastic.
They
They
were.
definitely went out with a bang.
They did.
Yes. It was, I don't know, perfect without being like overdone,
Yeah.
you know.
And I just still love all the photography. I mean, it's so sunny in Downton Abbey. That just doesn't seem true to life.
And the grass and the dogs.
When
Yeah.
we were in England
The puppy.
on our honeymoon in June, we actually went on the train and stopped at the station that they used for filming.
Horsted Keynes.
Horsted Keynes.
Oh, honey.
So that was
Oh,
cool.
yes, Spencer and Kristin T are married. Okay, proceed. We'd have to do this every time there are couples.
Right.
The panels.
So that was really cool to then see it on the screen every time we saw the train. We rode on that, and it was very cool. It's fully restored. It's absolutely beautiful. It's nice that they have things like that they could use. You know, one of the characters no one's mentioned that I really thought was good was Mr. Drew.
Mr. Drew.
Oh, Mr.
Farm.
Oh, yeah.
The one that took
Oh.
Edith's daughter
Yes.
Oh,
to
yes.
care
Yes.
for as his own.
There was a little more focus on him in Series 5,
Yeah.
I think. But he did pop up once.
The internal struggle in the poor man was really something to behold.
Absolutely. And he played it very well.
He did.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, that was a terrible position he was
Yeah.
in. And
Yeah.
And you felt for him the
Yeah,
entire
I did.
time. It's like, oh, poor guy. You know, he's trying to do what's right, but at the same time, it's causing massive struggle in his own marriage. And that was a well-written character.
it was a well-written
The whole
character.
business with Marigold was just interesting, and how
It
Mary
was.
figured it out and made Tom tell her.
Mary just is really good at eavesdropping. So that's how she found out initially, was overheard from
No,
her
right.
mother and grandmother.
The part that I struggle with is, you know, she was mad that nobody told her, but didn't actually make the leap as to why that might have been. It's like, you're the last one to know for a reason, and then look at what you did.
I think what bothered me about it was how judgmental she was about it, considering they pulled a corpse out of her room in the middle of the night. Like, really, you're judging that?
And she had that dalliance with the what's his face?
Gilliam.
Yes. A week in a hotel they spent.
She was very judgmental for someone that
Oh,
was doing the
yes.
things that she was doing. It was
Yes.
Yeah.
This
But
is the
Mary's-
eternal hypocrisy of Mary.
I mean,
Yes.
but she made Anna buy her condoms, so it's okay.
Well, and Mary's
Or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Her diaphragm.
Whatever.
Diaphragm.
Diaphragm.
Yeah, whatever
I
the
We don't actually know.
thing
Contraceptive
of the
at the time.
contraceptive of the age was, and yet it was Edith who got pregnant.
I mean, the fact that Mary didn't figure that out from, the 9-month stay with her aunt
Yeah,
and
not putting
grandmother,
2 and 2 together.
that was a little bit of a hole.
Yeah.
Well, she was going through widowhood at the time,
That's
so
true.
there is that.
Yeah, she was just, well, Mary's always very self-centered anyway, so I'm not entirely surprised she
Yes.
didn't figure it out, but
There's Mary, and around her spins the
Yes.
universe.
that's
Yes.
right.
She is very intelligent, though, so that's what
Yeah.
to me made me think, what? Why? How did she miss this? How did anybody miss this?
Oh, it's just this little girl that she just loves so much, but no one thinks anything of it. Weird.
Well, she
Yeah.
questioned it, but I think Kristen L is on the right track there. I mean, she's just so self-centered that I think I was able to suspend disbelief
Oh,
based
certainly.
on that.
Certainly. Just if we're gonna nitpick.
Yeah. We call it analyze.
The other piece I found so interesting was the whole hospital battle
Oh, yes.
was
between the
fantastic.
Dowager and Cora, and how the Dowager was just so bitter for a while and needed to walk away. And it keeps bringing me back to where I wanted to whap her up the side of the head and said, do you not realize that it was Cora's money that had saved Downton?
Yeah.
And so for you to continue to treat her as if she is...
Below you or
Yes.
I think
Yes,
that
and
whole
it was
story
like-
was really a parallel to how the times were changing. It was
Yes.
just used as the device for that. And I love the way that at the end, when she had lost, she was essentially gracious. She said, well, that's what happens. Moving on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to have left, knowing that she needed to be away.
Yep. I've
Needed
got
to
to
be
step away
away.
outside of this before I kill someone.
And I kind of thought it was a little tedious at times. Just this constant battle of it's all we talked about. It felt like because I felt like the first half of the season was a little just generally tedious. Basically up until Robert threw up on the table.
Oh, that was a beautifully
which our
filmed
friend
scene.
who is an ER nurse tells us is very medically accurate.
Okay.
What happened.
Wow.
She said that is exactly what that looks like when she...
My heart dropped.
brutal.
Up until that
happened.
point,
Yeah.
I kind of thought it was a little slow.
And maybe that's why the whole
Yeah.
last 3 episodes Christmas finale felt so rushed, is because they took so much time telling that part of the story, which it could have been shorter.
2 episodes.
Yeah.
I didn't find the hospital war that tedious because
Okay.
I did see the parallel that was being drawn there. Violet was really just being stubborn about the changing times, and that was her last big pitchfork in the ground, saying, "No, I'm not going to go forward into
it's
the
essential.
future."
That was Violet's last stand.
Exactly, and I think that it fired her up in the end for Isabel.
No, certainly.
So, and her rushing into that house and saying whatever she said to make
Just
that
yelled
marriage.
until Lord Murden
Yeah.
came.
Well, I think they were going to go up to see
No,
him.
right, but
We're
she
gonna
just-
go
There was
back.
no way that they were leaving without him.
There's certainly not.
Well, and she did it with her usual zest and zing towards his daughter. So I
What's
loved
her
that.
name? Amelia?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think it's Amelia.
Just a despisable character.
Yeah.
Julia Fellows does a good job of writing people you don't like.
Yeah.
God awful.
Yes. Yes.
Her
And
the
she
lady-
does not get redemption, which is good.
No, none of his children do.
Yeah.
No,
What terrible children!
But I think a lot of that
Such
came
nice
from
thing.
her.
Yeah.
She married the one of the sons, and then she's like, well, no, you don't want to do this, because then, bearing in mind where you see that she came from being a scullery maid or whatever she was originally. So she'd finally got her hands on the prize, and there was no way she was relinquishing it. She
Yeah.
was the puppet master in that. The way that the sons were acting towards Isabel, I think really came from her. She was definitely the catalyst in all of that.
Okay.
Speaking of maids, coming back, Gwen.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I was
excited.
knowing who she was.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a great from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Oops.
That's where she left. When she left Downton, she went to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But she's dead on Game of Thrones. Spoiler, and now she's back.
Everyone died on Game of
Spoiler
Thrones.
after you gave the spoiler.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not anticipating a lot of crossover.
But yet again, I was on a superhero podcast, the Game of Thrones podcast, and now I'm here. So
That's true.
You never
Kristen
know.
is a spoiler all by herself.
but yay for Gwen coming back. It was nice.
Yes.
It was nice to see
Interesting.
where she ended up, because she was one of my favorite characters in the first season. I really, really liked her.
And I enjoyed how Robert chastised Mr. Barrow.
Oh, thank
about,
goodness.
Like, you can't treat people like that.
Yeah. You know, everybody likes Carson because he's kind. Like, you really need to learn
Except
that
he's
skill.
not too kind to his wife.
Oh, yes.
That was another one of the changing times things that was put out there.
Yeah.
For way too long.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about Carson and Hughes. Let's talk
Yeah.
So
Mrs.
after
Hughes is
this-
the dowager of the servants. Because she could come out with those one zingers
Yeah, she
as well.
can.
She can.
She should have hit him in the back of the head with a frying pan, really.
That would have been
Yeah.
fun.
Or just hit him in the back of the head, just in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that they eventually taught him his lesson, I guess.
Yeah.
But
In their
just-
sneaky little way.
But he's
but-
just
Which,
so
in a way,
constant.
that kind of was a sour taste of season 6, was they gave you a reason to dislike Carson some.
Exactly.
Yeah.
After
And he'd
seasons
been-
of liking
He'd
him.
been such a
Yeah.
steady, lovable, firm but nice guy, and then suddenly it was like, oh,
He
you've
was-
got completely the old school wrong attitude towards women.
Yeah. He was just nitpicking every single thing that she did. It's like, well,
This
you
isn't
need
how
to
Mrs.
talk.
Patmore
Yeah,
does it.
you need to talk to Mrs. Petmore. Maybe have one of the maids teach you how to make the bed properly. And
Especially since he's
Ugh.
so protective and supportive of Mary, who is so
Yes.
non-traditional in
Yeah.
her own
Right.
way.
And Mrs. Hughes is the head housekeeper.
She's the housekeeper.
She is. So, I mean, I think the lady knows how to make a bed.
Right.
She doesn't need to ask a maid. I mean, come on.
No, it's
Carson-
really more about the
it's-
cooking, though.
and
because the
Carson knows
housekeeper
that.
doesn't do the cooking. That's
Yeah.
what Mrs. Patmore is the head cook.
She's talking about the corners of the bed. And
Yeah, he talks about corners of the
He
bed.
did.
Everything she was doing was wrong in his
wrong.
eyes. It's not how it's done. It's like, well, but she's your wife.
Right.
But I think it ties back into that, the changing of the
The
times.
changing of the times, yeah.
You know, he is what it was. And I think the same way his having to leave his post at the end was almost the final shift without the
Yeah.
aristocracy completely falling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You
just
know,
another
but
way
that-
that times are changing.
Yep. And that would be there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of my favorite pieces about the whole show as a whole is how they've introduced all the new things, like when the phonograph came in
Yeah.
and the radio
Yeah.
and all
Yeah,
those
all that
pieces.
new technology.
Because I often will reference that when I talk with people today about new technology. And when they'll say, well, oh my gosh, the technology is coming too fast and you're doing all this. And it's like, well, remember Robert in Downton, if I know they're a Downton fan, wasn't real thrilled with it either. Remember the reaction to the phone and the mixer and the refrigerator.
electric
Yeah.
The hair dryer.
Yes, all of those pieces.
And
And
the
that's
curling
just
iron,
the
too.
progress
The curling
of the world.
Oh, yeah.
It was a nice historical
I love the hair
timeline in
dryer.
many
It was.
respects.
It was.
Awesome.
Yep, I did. Though I really wished, I was hoping upon hope that they would bounce up to 1929 and the crash of the United States
too.
market to have brought back in Cora's mother
Mother
and
and
brother.
brother.
Yeah, that
Because
was-
I wanted to see Paul Giamatti again
too.
and that storyline and see if it had impacted her wealth, and if that,
Yeah.
how...
Because that's the fall of their age.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's the big turning point where it doesn't recover. It would have been nice because he wanted to show the decline of the aristocracy. It would have been nice to get to that final
I
moment.
wonder if it originally was intended to go through that.
Maybe.
I mean, it was
They'll
the
still own
end.
their home. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know if the 1929 crash reached across the pond the same way.
Yeah.
World War II would have been the
catalyst.
real crash. Yeah, I think. But you did mention that in our last podcast episode, and I was going to mention that actually. So I'm glad you brought it up because it didn't go that far. It ended abruptly before anything really cataclysmic happened out of the 20th century.
Well, maybe they felt that being through one war, we had been through enough and weren't ready to take to the next one.
What about Mrs. Patmore's bed and breakfast?
I wanted to see more of it.
I did too.
Maybe that's the spin-off series.
That would be lovely.
I like her so much.
I do
I do
too.
too. I
And
enjoy
I just-
Leslie Nichol as an actress. She's been in
Yeah.
a lot of things.
When she was talking to Carson about wifely duties, it was one of the high points of the season.
I had to go back and I rewatched that episode just
The awkwardness between the two of them was just beautiful. It's such a beautifully acted.
But it was well written, it was well acted, and like the cinematography was all around. It was that was probably one of my favorite scenes of the whole season 6.
And then her little inn, plagued by scandal as a house of ill repute.
Yeah.
it was a bit of a stretch. I mean, it's one customer, but I mean, hey.
Yeah, it's basically
It was
the
fun.
first customer and the press happened to be there. It's like, wow.
I know. Well, that was my question. What kind of press is in the Downton Abbey grounds?
I did not realize that the paparazzi was in existence back then.
How did that happen so fast? And then,
In Yorkshire.
the magic cure being, we'll swoop in and have breakfast at your inn, and everything will be hunky-dory.
Did you ever want Mrs. Patmore to actually smack Daisy physically and say,
Yes.
cut it out?
Yes.
I do have to say that Daisy this season was my most tedious story.
Oh my gosh, what did they do to
I agree.
her?
I don't know.
She was idealistic but stupid.
And she didn't have to fall in love with that guy. There was no reason.
But Mrs. Patmore called her out on it and said, you only want the person when they don't want you back.
No,
Yeah.
that's very true.
Yeah.
So I thought that was at least worth it. In fact, I enjoyed that every time Mrs. Patmore told her off.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
told her off a lot more this season.
But there-
Because she deserved it
She
a lot more
deserved it
this
more.
season.
Yeah.
No, and Daisy's one of those storylines we don't really get an answer to because we know she passed her exams, but we don't know if she's going to actually
Yeah, what is
Do
she going to
anything
do
with
with
it.
that?
Yeah.
She's moving to Mr. Mason's farm to be a farmer, apparently,
With Andy.
with Andy,
Yes.
who in real life is dating Lady Edith.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Hot gossip.
Things you learn when you decide you have to Wikipedia everything.
Though,
very helpful.
on the sad note, Lady Mary's real life
Fiance passed
died.
away.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
What?
know that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
The-
Tell me he
Sorry,
didn't die in a
Michelle
car
Dockery.
accident.
No,
No.
it was
Plane
cancer.
crash. Cancer?
It was
Cancer.
I believe it was cancer.
No, do you remember when they did the American accents on what?
Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy
Yeah.
Fallon? 2 days after that,
Oh,
Oh,
man.
wow.
Yeah.
or before that. It was around.
It was
then.
very close, yeah.
Well, Michelle Dockery, if you're listening, sympathies.
We're
Our
very
thoughts
sorry.
are
Very
with
much so.
you.
Yeah.
Because the character, the guy who played Tom, introduced them.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
Alan Leach.
That is
Yeah.
life imitating art.
Wow, that's sad.
Very much
Yeah,
so.
it's tragic.
Yeah.
There's a puppy.
There is a oh, that's
Oh,
true.
yes, there was a puppy.
The next golden retriever has made an
Yeah.
appearance at Downton Abbey. And what was his name? And he quizzed Lady Edith on it.
And
And I can't remember.
And I loved that.
yeah.
That, like, don't you know anything? It was great.
Oh, no one wants to talk about the dog.
Sorry.
It was cute. It was cute.
Yeah.
So did we feel the loss of any of the characters that had been in previous seasons?
I miss Lady Rose.
I do too. The energy level was down just a little bit without her there.
Yeah, Lady Rose did bring a good energy to the show. But season 6 was still better than season 5.
It was.
Oh my god, so
That's true.
Yeah.
I did like multiple references to Sybil.
Yep.
I mean, with Gwen coming back, Tom and Sibby being back.
And being, kind of morbid, but playing around her grave site was, it was.
Yeah.
The nods were so nice.
they still would talk about her. I mean, she still was their sister.
Yeah.
So
Well, that
Except
was the
Mary and Edith talked when Edith came back for Mary's wedding. And, she said, well, why were you able to come back? And she said, I realized we're the only ones who have the memories now.
Yeah.
When everyone else is gone, you and I will still remember Sybil. We'll still remember those pieces. And once again, completely loved Lady Edith more than Lady Mary in the moment. Because once again, she rose above what she could have done and was there and stuff. And I love that.
Yeah.
There was actually quite a focus about Sybil between
In
the
this
two
last
of
one.
them.
Yeah.
And that was ultimately the unifying factor, like you're saying. Because that's what Sybil did when she was alive. She negotiated their conflict for them.
Yeah.
And I think we felt her loss as significantly as we felt any other one since she's died. So
And then Tom kind of has taken that role of. So when he was gone, they didn't really even know how to probably interact. So it was nice that he was returning to try and fix things between the two of them. And when he told Mary off for being a bitch, that was awesome.
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that. Although I felt Tom's character in the last half of the season after he came back was a little stilted.
Oh, very.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Very.
he was a little too nice of a guy.
Too nice and didn't really do anything other than yell at Mary.
And the cars, he was obsessed with cars.
Oh yes. Oh, that's
Like,
true.
more than normal.
Him and Henry started a used car dealership.
Super romance.
Apparently, there was enough used cars to have a used car dealership back then in 1926.
I did
in
enjoy
Yorkshire.
the car aspect in season 6. Maybe that's just because I'm a guy, and it was nice to see the progression of it just being a way to get from point A to point B faster. You saw the birth of motor racing, which was kind of cool because that's where it did birth. In the aristocracy of England, and now look at it worldwide. It's a huge thing, and that's where it started. And I did like seeing all those really old cars. Those were
Yeah,
that was
that was
nicely
really cool.
Everything that they had on the show was historically awesome just to look at and to see in life, if you will, even though it was fictional. See it in action, I guess, is what I need to say.
Well, that is the cool part about being a period piece and being so authentic, is being able to feel like you had at least been there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did a
it was
very, very
nice.
good job, costume-wise, location-wise, just really putting you in how you feel it would have been. Obviously, he did a lot of consulting with historians.
Well, they had one on staff for the whole run of the show. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the Manners of Downton Abbey specials
did.
that they would always do, and it was always featuring their historian. And, like, how he'd even be on the set, like, measuring the distance between the place settings and the distance between all the forks and the knives. And
So
yeah,
what we
he was-
learned from that is if you become an expert in, say, the Edwardian era,
Yeah,
you can become a consultant on a TV show.
you sure can.
It was a very short-lived era.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's what happened. Right? Yeah, down to where they set pieces of silver.
Yeah, they had their little measuring sticks out.
how
and-
they would carry themselves as they sat down to
Yeah.
a mealtime. I mean, it was very kind of fascinating to watch. Although they did many of those specials, and I didn't watch all of them because I
They
was
were
like,
very
okay.
fascinating.
They were. I enjoyed them too.
And it was interesting. Speaking of sitting, there was in that last episode there was some sitting of the servants in front of people.
Yes.
And like Carson wouldn't sit in this
The
settee.
sitting. Yes.
And it was
used.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And then Pratt and Lady Edith as well.
Can we talk about Sprat for a minute?
Sure.
Yes, we
And how
can.
he was Miss Cassandra Jones.
That was fantastic.
Hilarious.
Little side note: the new puppy's name was Tia, another Egyptian reference, like Isis in the previous season.
Thank you,
Thank
Spencer.
you.
Excellent. I'm
That
glad
would
we
have
didn't
bothered
forget
me.
the puppy.
Yeah.
It's important. The dog is in the opening credits.
Yeah.
You're right, though. That Sprat thing was one of the high points.
It was
of the
perfect.
season
It was
as well.
so unexpected, and I don't know.
It
You
gave
knew
me-
something shady was going on with him. It turned out it
Yeah.
wasn't shady at all.
No.
It was just like, well, I'm an agony aunt, so,
Yeah.
you know.
I would have loved to have found out how he decided to even do that to begin with.
Or why was he chosen? Or I would love to know that whole process.
Yeah.
Well, he was chosen because didn't he like write a letter to the newspaper or to the magazine just saying, "Hey, I'd like to do this," and like sent a bunch of samples that were funny.
Oh.
And,
I
no
must have
one
missed
knew
that.
he was a man.
Yeah.
I liked when the Dowager read his column and thought it was fantastic.
I know. It was brilliant to watch her enjoy the ongoing tete-a-tete between her servants. She literally laughed out loud. It was funny.
I'll never think of the word bananas in the same way.
I enjoyed that a lot. So we had talked about it a little bit earlier as we were kind of tossing out our opinions and so forth, and Spencer talked a little bit about how he felt everything was contrived. But what I'd like to touch on is, how do you feel about the way the series ended? Were you satisfied? Why or why not?
It was a little sugary. It was a little sugary, but I was overall pleased.
Explain.
Sorry.
That was the explain look.
It was a little too perfect. Everybody seemed very blissful and happy, and it was New Year's, and we're kissing, and there's champagne, and it was just a little too perfect. But, that being said, this is a substantially better way to go than a lot of other shows go, in which somebody dies and we don't know anything, and then, oh, it's over forever. So, if I had to pick between the two, I would much rather have everything wrapped up with a neat little bow than not know what was happening.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say I probably overanalyze it when I say it felt contrived, and that's from the point of view of I like good storytelling, and this season felt like, okay, this is what I want the characters to be at the end. I'm going to start writing here. Oh, I'm 3/4 of the way through. Crap, I've got to wrap everything up. And that's kind of how it felt. So I feel like it was some poor storytelling, some poor writing, but I do enjoy the way it wrapped up. I especially the Barrow redemption. I like the way that it was tidy in. You got good feelings out of it. It was just poor writing. This season was not written well because it didn't have a good flow. It didn't build to those finishes. It was like, la da 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 da. Oh, crap. Ah.
Okay.
And I kind of have to tag a little onto what you said, Spencer, and agree with that piece, because when I was watching it, was texting a woman that I work with, because we would watch it too. And so during the show, we'd be texting each other in different pieces. And there were a couple of episodes where we went, boy, this is really quite boring. Or, that just didn't do it for me. So I felt it was a little bit of up and down, but a lot of ups at the end that I really liked more. And was it the episode that when Robert had his big thing, Barrow also tried to commit suicide?
No.
No, were they different ones? Or there was something else big that happened in the same episode with Barrow because I remember us going, oh my goodness, there were like two major pieces, and I can't remember if it was Lady Edith or maybe it was Lady Edith and Bertie for the first time when he asked her to marry him, and then that, but we just felt it was up and down. It was just like, oh my goodness. But I also liked the way it ended. I liked that they left some doors open. So whether there be a movie or
A reunion special?
Yep, or something that comes back. It was very much like when the TV show Friends ended, and that they wrapped it up, but there was that little window.
Yeah, there was
A
like
sense of the next chapter.
You could go there, and I'd be interested and stuff. So, but I wouldn't want them to do like what Desperate Housewives did. I don't want them to jump 5 years forward going there. I'm not sure I'd want it right after the ended, but don't get me too far ahead.
I know they've talked about doing a movie. Whether it'll actually come about or not, I don't know, because Julian Fellows is now here in the States earning a lot more money on whatever he's writing over here.
He's doing something on the Gilded Age for NBC.
Correct.
Is his next project.
It hasn't been announced what the name is or
I
anything.
just looked it up, and in the episode where Robert has his medical situation,
You said that very, like...
Where Robert becomes a human
Carefully.
fountain.
I didn't want to say Vomit's blood. And
Oh, now you did.
You know what I So
When his ulcer bursts.
There you go.
there we are.
We've arrived.
That is also the episode where Andy admits that he's illiterate, and Mr. Barrow gets kind of like, "Oh no, please stop teaching him." That's kind of the bummer thing with him in that one.
Okay.
Yes, but also Lady Edith and Bertie make out in that one too.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
To kind of piggyback off of what Stacey said about leaving the doors open, I liked what they did near the end of the series with some of the storylines being finished, but there's more that you could imagine. Mm-hmm. And when I think about ending a series, I think it has to be so hard, and I come at it more from a book perspective because I do a lot more reading than I do watching TV, but almost every book series that ends, there's so much fault to be found in the final novel that I think, what is this just the nature of having to end something that people have fallen in love with the characters, they feel like they've been to the setting, they feel like it's a home or they feel like it's a place and now it has to close. So I didn't find as much fault with the ending, I think, because of that. I liked some of the neatness. I felt like other aspects were rushed, like the getting married and being pregnant all of a sudden story, very rushed for me. But at the same time, I liked that I was left with questions. I was theorizing, what if this happens? Or maybe that could happen to this character next. And so I enjoyed it. I was pleased.
Really, that's a really good point. I love the book analogy piece. That's really,
Am I making this up? Or is there a rumor that there's going to be a movie in the 50s?
For Downton Abbey?
Yeah.
I think if you read it or heard it, I think is really a rumor because
it's so early right now.
And the Dowager would be gone.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm surprised the Dowager made it to the end.
That was my big fear
I
for
was
season
really
6. They were going to kill her. I would have been so mad.
Well, even Maggie Smith had said, she's
Yeah.
like, I don't know how this woman is hanging on. She's like, she was old when we started in 1912, and
She
now
has
we're
gone on to say
getting
that
into 1926, and she's still kicking. She's like, it doesn't make logical sense that she's still around.
Yeah.
That was my biggest fear.
Her character was so hardy, though, it would take something dramatic to
It's
kill her.
very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, up until probably February, they were still doing press for Downton Abbey for the broadcast in the States. So I don't think they'd go right into something like that.
Yeah.
And actually, on the Graham Norton show, I saw that Maggie Smith has never actually watched any of the shows.
No, she never has.
Oh, my.
Nope, she's never watched it, and she doesn't think she ever will. She's like, I lived it. I don't need to watch it.
Yeah.
She's kind of been like that about everything she does, though. She doesn't want to watch.
I don't think she watched any of the Harry Potter stuff either.
No, she didn't.
One of my favorite, I have a Downton Abbey calendar, a day-to-day one, that has little pictures and sayings. And when we were talking about the Dowager, the one on March 29th was Cora saying, "Are we to be friends then?" And Violet replies, "We are allies, my dear," which can be a good deal more effective. And I
totally
always
sums her up.
it does, and that, you know what, we don't need to be friends, but as long as we work together, it will be that piece. So, yeah, I thought she had that with Isabel too. You know, always allies. Though I think they were a little more friends because they were closer in age. But
Well, and Isabel was not afraid to tell her exactly what she thought.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
what-
Yep.
Well, I think
beautiful
why she
thing.
acknowledged her so much because
The
Violet
only
was
person
so
who could stand up.
exactly so used to running roughshod over everybody that here's Isabel saying, no.
though the one character I always felt a little sorry for was the doctor
Yeah.
and stuff, who was in love
Really
with
sad
Isabel
for
and
him.
never
Just
quite.
kind of.
Yeah.
When he had to go treat her now husband person.
Although wasn't he the one who misdiagnosed Dickie?
No, I wasn't.
No,
it
he
different?
got it right. It was
got
somebody
He got
else.
it right. Somebody
Oh,
else
he got
had
it right.
Yeah, somebody else
Yes.
had diagnosed it and been
And,
dreadfully wrong.
Life-threatening
And
anemia
also, she was the one
apparently
that
existed.
He also got Sibby's condition right.
That the other doctor.
The other
didn't.
doctor got wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's almost always right apparently.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was a good doctor, but never got the benefit of the doubt because
Yeah.
he was in a small town and
Yeah.
Right, but
The new hospital should hire him.
they're keeping him on. They already said.
Yeah.
Yes.
I missed
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Though, Krista, that was an interesting point that I kept thinking about during the whole battle about the hospital and, you know, bringing in the new things and Cora talking about the new things and how this will help them give better service to the patients. And I kept going back to Sybil's death and thinking, that's an interesting twist for you, Cora, because you wanted the local doctor. And Robert was the one who kept insisting to have the new person in there. So the new philosophy with that one did not benefit you with Sybil. with having the new, more modern type facility where if you had gone with the original doctor, she might still be alive. So I found that interesting as they were having this battle and she kept talking about it. I thought, ooh, that double-edged sword.
Interesting.
There's a little inconsistency in the writing there.
Yeah, for sure.
Although that was another case of the actress not wanting to be part of the show anymore, so there was no way she was surviving.
Okay.
We'll talk about that when we get to our looking back chapter. Kristen L, do you have any thoughts about the way the series wrapped up?
I would like to know what happened. I want to know past 1926. I want to know whether Downton survived. I want to know if George was able to inherit the estate. I want to know the long-term plan of what happened to the family. I mean, even if there is no movie, I would like to have, Julian Fellowes write an epilogue or just write a short bulleted list. I want to know.
We did talk about that the last time. What if they did it like Harry Potter and put an epilogue in where we fast forward to a time?
A point, and we see that everything's okay
Check
or
in.
everything isn't, or...
Well, George will have at the very least inherited the title, no matter what the standing of the family.
Right.
Okay.
It's like, I just want to know what happens to the house.
Unless the family sold the title, which did happen.
Well, Highclere
Yeah.
Castle's still there.
Yeah.
It is, but
It's not Downton
it's
Abbey.
not, right, it's not the fictional Downton Abbey.
But can I ask that question, Spencer? Where they fictionally had this taking place, how affected would that have been by the bombing and the war?
No.
Not at all. Yorkshire
Not.
was not even
Okay,
touched.
so the house could have survived
Survived.
all
Yeah,
of that
that-
piece physically,
Yeah.
whether or not
Like,
financially
they
they
probably
were able
would
to
have had
make
to
it.
take children in during the war and things out of London.
Yeah, the same way they did
Did
in
with the World War
in
I.
World War
Yeah,
I,
with
where
the
it became a
hospital.
hospital.
Yeah.
That would
Okay.
have, a lot of children from London were sent out to the country, so Downton would have probably housed some
It's the
children.
whole plot of Downton Broomsticks.
Yeah.
Which would make
That
sense
is
if
true.
Lady Edith...
And the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yes. Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, it would make sense if Lady Edith was based in London with her publication and Marigold and that Bertie were still living there, that they would then help take children out to her
Out to
home.
their
Yeah.
castle, out
Yeah.
wherever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and be out
I feel
there.
like it was in Scotland, but that can't
No,
be right.
they're in New York.
They're in
Yorkshire.
They're in Yorkshire also?
Right there.
Bertie's castle. I think
Bertie's
you're talking
castle.
about Bertie's home.
Yeah.
Well, Bertie's home wasn't that?
I
Was
thought
that
it was
in
in Scotland.
I don't think it was in Scotland.
I don't think so.
Because didn't they?
either. I think,
Isn't that where they went for the hunting trip?
I think that was
They
with
went-
Lord Cinderby.
Yeah, that was with
Yes,
Rose.
Lord
Yeah.
Cinderby's
That was
friends,
Rose.
yes.
Sorry,
They went
I'm-
hunting in
It's easy to
Scotland.
get the locations once
Yeah.
you have it.
Places where they went hunting. Well, there were lots. So-
Ah.
Some of the fun was seeing that, like the all of the quarters downstairs were actually just a studio. They weren't at Highclere Castle.
Yeah.
That
The
was really
village
fun
of
to see
Downton
afterwards.
was 2 hours away from Highclere Drive.
All that kind of
Yeah.
stuff was very interesting to see after the fact, because you kind of put it all together in your mind that this is one place, and it turns out to be like 25.
Yes.
Right.
Just
So I was
a-
trying to think about okay, so they're in this room, and I never realized until I don't know, the last episode that Cora's dressing room was off of the bedroom, and it's because we saw her go through the door, and I was like, the whole time.
Every time a servant leaves from downstairs and goes up the stairs, they're just going out to a corridor in a studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sometimes I don't like to watch those behind the scenes things because they ruin the fantasy.
Right, somebody was-
Downstairs, as in the servants' quarters.
The servants' quarters were upstairs, but the kitchens and everything, they were all just studio.
Yeah.
They weren't connected to
just
the
like all the
abbey at all.
bedrooms.
And the bed, inside of the bedrooms, I would
Yeah.
have assumed, because they have to be able to film from the outside. Otherwise, they'd be on a wall,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just logically.
I was also just thinking that even if the structure of Downton Abbey survived the World War and they took in children or whatever, that doesn't mean that the family would have kept that property.
Right.
It could have become part of the public trust later on because so many didn't keep their property.
Yeah.
Or
That's
were
what I'd
hit
like
hard
to know.
financially.
That was the funny part too. When they opened up the house for the tour, they knew nothing of the history.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And why would anyone want to come see us? It's just a table. Because everyone wants to come see your house. Robert, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to have people ask about, well, what is that painting? Where did it come from? And then not know.
Yeah, and why are the shields above the fireplace blank? And I just see Mosley just trying to raise his hand and be like, I can answer this, Cora. And just
Yep, I thought that was absolutely
And Cora's like,
fascinating.
I've never noticed that before. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, you know what? I guess
But
if
it
it's
just-
your house.
it just shows how much they take that for granted, and they don't understand why people like us,
Right.
the commoners, would want to
know
go
everything.
and
Well, it's
experience
also a
it.
very big house. I mean, even if you live in it, how much time do you spend studying it?
Yeah.
There's just so many things.
Yeah.
And they've been there for generations. And Cora's American.
Though the Dowager knew.
The Dowager.
The
did.
Dowager
Yeah.
knew. You know, when she would come in, she knew.
She's more fastidious about that
Yeah,
sort of
that's
thing,
true.
though.
I found the location of Bertie Pelham's castle. It's Northumberland.
Okay.
It's
Is it
called-
Alnwick?
It's Brancaster.
Brancaster, okay, because there were two. There was Alnwick and Brancaster that were in
And
those
then
towards the end.
Lady Rose's family was
So
in
that's not
Scotland.
far from
Marquess of
Scotland.
Hexham, that's Pelham,
Right.
right?
Right, Northumberland's definitely right up in the north.
So not quite Scotland, but close.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not.
Well, York is kind of by Scotland, if you want to relatively
Compared to London,
Alnwick,
yes.
Alnwick is very north as well. It's closer to Edinburgh than it is to York.
Yeah.
Wow, a geography lesson.
I know.
Just,
It's
I
not
love
a very
it.
big country. I mean,
It's
we're
not.
talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah, it's really
owls, but...
It is. It's about
It's
the size of
basically Michigan and Indiana combined.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, that was going to be your next question. What would it be as far as the United States goes? That's a
Yeah.
good point. Interesting. And Michigan, including the UP?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just add that while I do agree that the pacing was particularly choppy in this season, and I agree Krista's made the comment, Stacey said up and down, Spencer's made the comment. It was very tedious in the beginning, but I would not have been satisfied if it had ended any other way.
No.
I know things are going to be bad and be horrible, but I think what Mr. Fellows was going for and actually achieved in the end was, yes, this is all happy and wrapped up, but this is a moment in time. We know there's a future. They know there's a future. It's been acknowledged by them that they're helpless against the future. But for the moment, for the time, this is where we all are. And yes, Mary got married way too quickly and was way too judgmental. And Edith didn't get married quickly enough because that was a 6-season journey, at least. And we could go down through each of the characters and talk about, you know, just how much progress or lack of progress they made. But in the end, I think if it had ended any other way, if any of the characters had died, even Violet, who is perennially a fan favorite, that I don't think people would have walked away feeling satisfied and
Right.
feeling like they've been given an entertaining piece. Because, you know, Downton Abbey is not a tragedy. It's a historical glimpse, if you will. And we can talk about real life versus non-real life, but it's also a fictional family, and it's the past. You know, it's 90 years now into the past, so that's, I think, worth mentioning. Just wanted to say that.
I think your word satisfied is definitely
Yeah.
a good way. I think people walked away satisfied, maybe not 100% happy, maybe not, you know, disappointed here and there, but I think most people walked away satisfied.
Yeah, I'm satisfied yet critical.
And I'm satisfied, hopeful, with some loose ends I see maybe being wrapped up somewhere. Maybe the Harry Potter type glimpse.
I'd say that Robert's change, Robert's revelation of how things were changing were actually good by the end of it, was a very nice touch. You
It
know,
was.
when
So
he
happy
walks
for
into
him.
the back and sees Cora being strong and powerful in that
I
meeting.
loved that
I love that
moment.
scene too. I was hoping somebody would bring that up.
I loved that moment.
But once again, it was Lady Rose
Yes.
who
it
brought
was.
it there.
Yeah.
It was Lady Rose who brought him there because he was not ready to go there, and she
Yeah.
said, "I think you need to come with me."
He was being the naughty puppy that needed the rolled up newspaper.
That's true.
Or let's put you on a leash like La Rose did, and come on, let's go
Yep.
for a little walk.
Yep.
Yep.
And you'll
I-
love the dog park once you get there.
I wish we had been able to check in with her more. Why did she have to go and fight zombies?
Yeah.
She was in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
And
And
Cinderella.
Cinderella. Yeah.
At least they didn't kill her when she decided she wasn't going to be in season 6.
That's true.
She had a baby.
She did.
She
It was
did.
in America.
A photo.
And Atticus came back, and then
Yeah.
that was all. Yeah, I was
Yeah, he was a
satisfied.
fun character.
I was satisfied.
There was the interesting moments with, and this may be season 5 actually, with the Dowager in the Russian.
Yeah, season
Mhm.
5.
Season 5. We'll get to that later then.
We will.
Yeah.
Well, I think having discussed and dissected series/season, depending on what side of the pond you're on, 6, we'll end it here. But that's not all, folks. We have one other part to this final podcast series for Downton Abbey. We're going to actually do one of our looking back episodes where we kind of talk about the entire series as a whole, not just series 6 and how we felt it progressed, where it went, where it could go, if it were to go anywhere, and also how well we think it would age, how well it would remain timeless. Because some shows tend to be those kinds of shows you like to visit and revisit often. So will Downton Abbey be one of those, or will it be one of the ones that don't age quite so well and end up being dated after a time? And we'll just probably offer our final departing thoughts in homage and in dedication to this wonderful show. So make sure you tune into that. For right now, I'd like to thank Krista, Kristen L, Kristin T, Spencer, and Stacey for joining me again to discuss Downton Abbey. Please, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, or our Stitcher radio channel. Our next few episodes are going to be irregularly airing because we're in that weird time where the main TV series or TV season from fall to spring is kind of petering out, depending upon the show and the network. We'll heat up again in the summertime, so you're going to want to subscribe so you can keep track. I've been trying to send out the message when the new episodes are coming. Also, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. I've been threatening that for months. Follow us on Pinterest. You'll be able to keep track of us that way. Until then, keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.